So we have, again, I want to keep emphasizing the variety of dolls from time periods and materials and style that we have in this auction. And here's another table with a wonderful representation. Look at this little group. Every collector loves these. These are the miniature porcelain dolls, and what you can't see, except in the middle one, they all have the wooden articulated bodies. So very, very rare and desirable to find. And the middle one, I think I'm going to lift this dome off so you can probably see a little bit better. She has the rare, what other rare feature does she have about her? The brown hair. Very, very unique to find, the painted brown hair and the fully articulated wooden body. And her two little companions have the black sculpted hair in the same style, which was known to be the style that was favored by Queen Victoria during the middle part of her reign, and during the time period these dolls would be made. So this little doll, she has a book that comes with her called Victoria, the Good Queen and Empress, an early miniature book. So that makes that a very special treat for her. When we come around, we have here a wonderful toffling baby. The toffling baby, meaning they have the hip, the papier-mâché hips, and then the cloth upper torso, and very rare to find, being inspired by the Japanese dolls that had come in the 1850s and showed Europeans how you could make a child doll, which the Japanese had been making. Next to her is the Stadtdamen. We always talk about the French fashion dolls and how elegant they are. The Germans were also doing it. They did it in wax, they did it in papier-mâché, and here is an example of one that is the wax over the papier-mâché and wearing the fashionable costume of the city. So the city lady, the Stadtdamen, that's how it would be known. Not enough attention is paid for these. Collectors are always saying, how can I get in on collecting? Everything is so expensive and I can't afford it. There's a category you can get in on. The German Stadtdamens, measure them against the French fashions to see where there's opportunity. Two other examples of papier-mâché from the Germans, which also are a very good category to get into if your funds are somewhat limited in collecting. And look for examples like these two, which have their original costumes on them and very desirable to find. A little taste of some of the miniatures that will be featured in the Sunday auction, which we're not showing you here today, but we have this group of the early wax poured dolls, and we have the mother and three little children with some furniture, and that is being presented as one lot in the Sunday auction with other wonderful miniature furniture, including Rock and Granner, early Biedermeier. You'll find great pieces. Here's another toffling baby. Now this girl, and I'm going to see if I can lift her skirt and show you what I mean by a toffling baby, just so we're all using the same language, because this doll was known as the Machman doll for so long, and that's really not a correct term. And this one has so much clothing on it, you won't be able to see it. But you can see it has, like, look at those little porcelain lower feet. Oh my God, they're so sweet. And then she'll have a porcelain midriff and the porcelain shoulder plate. She does have a swivel head. The shoulder plate on this doll has some restoration, but I have included it with the doll because this doll is so rare and she's such an absolute gem. Then a wonderful English wax doll, and then standing proud and tall on the top of the table, we have two wooden dolls. One is a wonderful English wooden doll with an additional costume, a very beautiful transfer costume, including her coin pocket and her chatelaine with some jewelry, a great face on her. Look at the shape of her head and how these piquant little facial features. And we have included a photograph from, she was in an exhibition in France in 1913. An exhibition was done of historic dolls, and this doll was one of the ones that was featured there wearing her secondary gown right here. So very nice to have, because you have provenance with that doll as well. And then we have this fabulous early Grodner doll in large size and unusual jointing of her waist and her tuck comb in particular on top of her head with the gold band and the extra beading up there. And look at these exuberant curls framing her face. Absolutely wonderful, including the one, that little swirly thing right down in the middle of her forehead. really, really wonderful doll. This was from the Lila Raitt collection, and she made comment about the doll was really earlier than the earliest settlements in Australia, so it was pretty remarkable that it had made its way there many, many years ago. It was not something that a collector had brought in. It had come in with an original family. So quite wonderful to find. We're going to start with the girl at the top of the table, the crowning achievement in a lot of doll collections. After all, it's believed that only 100 of the dolls were made from the famous Albert Marque, the French sculptor, who designed this doll in the early 1900s. Albert Marque designed the doll as part of a small group of doll makers who wanted to help reinvigorate the French fashion industry and doll industry, which had been so gravely damaged during World War I, to help resuscitate them and also to help bring the city back to life, which had really been destroyed. It was so war-torn during the time. So this is a particularly interesting doll to be selling because her original purpose was as a charitable function. She was exhibited as part of the Margane Lacroix exhibition of dolls in 1916 at their boutique, in which the Marque was introduced, wearing various historical and famous people costumes. At that time, they were at the end of the exhibition, the various dolls were sold. Some went to the Carnegie Institute in Pittsburgh, for example, and this particular model of Marque was sold to the father of a young girl, Emilienne Berger, in Paris. It went into her possession. She was never allowed to play with it. She talks about how the family kept it stored in this large box at the bottom of the bookcase in their salon. She kept it for over 80 years until we sold it the first time about 20 years ago. It went into the collection of Regina Heldridge in New Jersey, and after her passing, she bequeathed her collection to Rutgers University in New Jersey. And it's being sold to benefit the Zimmerli Museum of Rutgers University. So I want to say that to me this is particularly fitting because she began her life as a benefit doll to help restore Paris, to bring education, to save young children in her early life, and now today this doll is being sold to benefit the intellectual fund of Rutgers University. So anyone who is lucky enough to either bid or to purchase this doll, you're not only getting a wonderful doll, you're serving a great purpose as well. And I knew Regina for many years. She would be very proud that you would do that. Well, here's another part of the story of this doll. The doll has a mark on the bottom of her foot. Some of the Marque dolls have been found with this mark, some their foot is blank. But this one was lucky enough to have the mark. And it's pencil script and it's written Paulette, Louis 15th, Louis XV. And we always wondered who that was. Well, the internet finally opens up more and more doors to us. And this is what I believe that new research has shown, that Paulette was the second daughter of the very famous 4 Damali sisters, all of whom were official mistresses of Louis XV. She was the second one, Paulette. Pauline. Paulette would be her diminutive or the nickname of Pauline. And she died just 2 years after being with the king, giving birth to his young son, who became known as the Demi-Louis. And the French were fascinated. I mean, these were 4 sisters, and they all became his mistresses. And just like they were fascinated with the story of the diamond necklace when I talked about the French wooden dolls before. Now the story of the Damali sisters has become famous in French history. And when the Marque was created, they presented various people of interest to the French people in their original presentations. So here we have Paulette, mistress of King Louis XV, as denoted on the bottom of her foot. And here she is with her wonderful story. And you can go on the internet and you can learn all about this wonderful story, and it makes it so much more powerful than just simply being an object, a thing. It has a whole life, a whole story behind it. So I know I kind of wax enthusiastic at times, but what I want to say is history does come full circle. In 1766, 25 years after Pauline Félicité, known as Paulette, died, Rutgers University was founded. 25 years later, in 1776, she died. She had died 25 years before. In 1776, Rutgers University in far-off colonial America was founded. And now, more than 250 years later, with pauses for the American Revolution, the French Revolution, a Great World War, and an exhibition in a small boutique in Paris featuring a bisque doll, these events fuse to benefit a great institution of learning and arts. I will say whoever acquires this doll is very fortunate in many ways. Standing next to her is a statue also done by Albert Marque, and next to him is that wonderful little Poulbeau fellow, who was part of that great movement, the Renaissance of the French artists that got together at the end of World War I to help support Paris society, and this was done by Francis Poulbeau, and this is his little urchin boy in original costume, a great doll. Down in the front row are three little dolls, all by the SFBJ company, done again about 1910, 1915, with different characters from SFBJ. And then standing front and center, their competition from Germany, our cover doll. The cover doll of Cherished is this wonderful and rare mystery character marked only 1450. Lots of discussion as to who her maker is, possibly Simon and Halbig. We're not certain, it's up to you, but as you can see, she graces the cover, and well, she deserves to, because she is an extraordinarily fine doll. Cherished is a wonderful way to describe the collection, because the dolls in this group, there are nearly 600 dolls. You've seen only a small portion of them, are all items that have been cherished by children, by adults in their life before coming here, ready to be presented to you. They come from different parts of the world. They come from different mediums. They are wonderful treasures to be found, and they are available with some of them with the stories of their actual background behind them, some of them with with mysteries behind them, frankly, that you have to work to discover more about. Others of them that we have clues that you can try to follow up and be tantalized about. We have them from the top doll makers in the world, from Leon Casimir Bru to Aristide Halipeau. We have the wonderful Albert Marque doll. We have André Toulier. We have rare treasures from the German makers, and the wonderful dolls from the French wooden court dolls to early English wooden dolls. This is a panorama that you can wait and visit hundreds of museums, if hundreds did exist, which they don't anymore, and sadly, to ever find the pieces as wonderful as this. I would love if you could come to attend the auction. Just call us for a reservation for a seat. We have a small gallery, a boutique gallery. We can have 35 people here, so we do ask you to make a reservation. We'll have just a wonderful time. If you can't do that, we want you to stay online. We're trying to always make our online presentation with our live video feed really an exciting adventure for you as well. So give us a call if there's anything we can help you with to answer any more questions, or plan to be here, or plan to be online, and we will all have a wonderful time together. Thank you so much for listening to this.